Jack Michaels joins us for Game Keys as Santa delivers the present of this year's second edition of the Battle of Alberta right before the holidays. And it's certainly been a season of gratitude for goaltender Connor Ingram, who's coming off that 28-save performance on Sunday. What a story for number 39, and it will be his second straight start here against Calgary.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether the Oilers are necessarily turning cartwheels over the fact that for the first time in franchise history, they've needed 4 different tenders to win a game for them in 1 month. But Connor Ingram, the latest to do it, and a guy, I mean, you know, he's coming off 8 days off. He's coming off, yes, a win, but a win where he gives up 7 goals. And he arrives on the second of a back-to-back where, oh, by the way, the Oilers hadn't won until the other day. So, I mean, it was the toughest possible circumstance. Oh, yeah, against a division rival who's irritated about being blown out in Calgary the night before. I thought, you know, Connor Ingram, he talked to me about, you know, that first penalty kill, getting that out of the way, getting a few saves early was a boost of confidence. But for me, it was the 2 he made after the timeout. The Oilers took a timeout to try to settle things down at 4-3. All of a sudden, their lead, you know, shrinks to 1, and there's an eternity to play, and Ingram gives you a couple of saves. You know, keeps the lead intact. And I think that's a big difference from some of the games, including the one against Calgary in the season opener, where the Oilers coughed up some leads and the game-tying and game-winning goals did go in.
Yeah.
That didn't happen against Vegas, and Ingram deserves a great deal of credit for that. And he marked his 100th career start in victorious fashion. And now, all of a sudden, he's in a position, Tony, we don't know the extent of Tristan Jarry's injury. We don't know for how long he'll be out. And all of a sudden, you get a guy who's basically an organizational number 4 to potentially being, you know, a guy who could go on a run a bit. He's going to get an opportunity, Tony. And the nice thing about Connor Ingram is the last time he was afforded this opportunity, he delivered. And he put Arizona in contention, a middling team. Yeah. He won 23 games for that club a couple years ago and kept their playoff hopes afloat for about as long as possible. So he's not necessarily frightened by this opportunity in the sense that I think the biggest difference, though, for me is he's doing it now for a contender. And that, in and of itself, comes with a little bit more pressure than keeping a team that's not supposed to make the playoffs in contention.
All right, well, he was certainly tested between the pipes, and another player that was tested in a whole different way was Trent Frederic, who was in the press box last game. He draws back into the lineup, centering the 4th line with Jones and Janmark. This is a pretty important showing for number 10 here tonight.
Well, it's not just Trent Frederic who's on notice. I think the Oiler depth players are on notice because they're getting healthy now. Jack Roslovic made his return after missing 11 the other night against Vegas. Kasperi Kapanen's going to be ready pretty quickly. Jake Wallman behind that. So, you know, you've got some regulars that you know are going to have positions in the lineup, and if you're not delivering, you've got to start producing, or you're going to find yourself in a position like Trent Frederic did. Curtis Lazar is going to be the odd man out tonight against Calgary, but I think there are a couple of other guys in that bottom 6 who've got to watch themselves, who've got to find a way to contribute in other ways. If you're not scoring, you've got to get it done on the PK. The other thing I'm watching tonight, Tony, is Edmonton's penalty kill has given up 7 in the last 5. Now, I know Calgary's been dreadful on the power play all season long. They're 30th in the league at 14%. But that's an area you got to shore up because you don't often get away from that, get away with that in terms of the leakage on the PK. Fortunately for the Oilers, they've been so hot on the power play, they've been able to outscore some of those errors on the PK. So some of the things I've been looking at, today, and Trent Frederic won't have a role in penalty killing, but I do think he's going to have to carve out a role for himself. Yeah. He's going to have to do something to stay in this lineup because, again, as Edmonton gets healthier, there's going to be a push down. And the bottom 6 is an opportunity where if you get any sorts of contributions, it's going to be notable because right now that bottom 6 is not producing on any sort of consistent basis for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, the swap between Frederic and Lazar, as Jack mentioned, that's the only lineup change that we'll see here for Chris Knobloch and the Edmonton Oilers tonight. And you talk about the Oilers PK, well, Yeah, the power play numbers may not be great for Calgary, but their offensive players, they're starting to play like it. Nazem Kadri has 20 points in his last 16. Rasmus Anderson, who's the quarterback on that power play, 18 in his last 16. Calgary's onto something here. They're 6-2 in their last 8. What's changed from the start of the season when it comes to the team down Highway 2?
Well, I think they are getting some balanced contributions. They don't have a McDavid or Draisaitl, nothing approaching that. Yeah. But what they do have is they have, I believe, 8 guys with at least 7 goals in their lineup. It's a bit of a whack-a-mole offense. Their best line all season long has been the line that's centered by Michael Backlund, who always seems to save his best for Edmonton. Blake Coleman's on that line. Connor Zari's on that line. That's a key for Edmonton tonight to negate that third line, because after a dreadful start where I thought the Flames had eliminated themselves, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, they were the worst team in the league by far 6 weeks ago. Since then, they've been the 5th best team. They're 10-4-1 in their last 15, and they've done it through balance. They've done it through, as you pointed out, they've got Nazem Kadri. He's still an above-average player in this league, and Rasmus Anderson has handled all the trade talk very well and come up with a very good season. But the key for me for Calgary has been its balance and the fact that they've gotten some contributions from down their lineup. And as a result, if you've got 3 lines that are scoring for you, you become that much more difficult to defend. Dustin Wolf, for me, has played better as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing is Dustin Wolf had a great season last year. He almost single-handedly kept Calgary in the playoff chase and almost got them into the postseason. And then, Tony, he wasn't very good at the beginning of the year. And that played a big role in their start, where I believe they won 5 of their first 21 games. He's now playing well. Devin Cooley's given him some quality work as the backup. And like the rest of their team, I think that balance at that position has carried over into the other positions.
Dustin Wolf is 5-1 in his last 6 starts. Connor Ingram looks for his 2nd straight victory. And Jack, we're all prepped for game number 38 on the Oilers schedule. You can hear
Two
Jack.
teams playing well.
It's going to be great. I can't wait for this one here at Rogers Place. You can hear Jack alongside Louis DeBrusque and Gene Principe on Sportsnet tonight as the Oilers gun for win number 19.